We can start the meeting now.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining the Palm Springs Airport Commission meeting for February 21st at 9:30 p.m. At this time, I would like to call the order and I pledge of allegiance.
Oh, sorry. Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh my gosh.
Agenda for this meeting posted.
Yeah, the agenda has been posted.
Thank you, and at this time, I would like to see if we have the acceptance of the agenda or anyone who would like to see any changes. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to accept the agenda. All in favor? Aye.
We'll take a roll call vote.
Yeah, roll call.
Commissioner Banks? Not here. Commissioner Burke?
Yes.
Caldwell?
Yes.
Corcoran?
Yes.
Dada?
Yes.
Legato? Not here. Feltman?
Yes.
Fong?
Aye.
Martin?
Yes.
Michaelis?
Yes.
Pye?
Yes.
Wise?
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
And Banks, we're voting to, Commissioner Banks, we're voting to accept the agenda?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have four.
Yes, we have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to accept the agenda as posted.
We've accepted the agenda. We're now going to public comments.
At this time, I would like to see any public comments. And the public comments are limited to 3 minutes.
So for this public comment period, we do have Brad Anderson with us here in the meeting. Brad, you have 3 minutes. to speak.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Brad. I'm returning my currently to the event for and this is a new one for me, one of my meetings, but anyway, I wanted to, it's great, and it's really orienting. So anyway, yeah, I did notice, and you're well aware of this, that the increased traffic, air traffic you got this year. Noticeably, I live apparently on the pathway, so I see it every couple of minutes, a lot of traffic. But my concern about the helicopters, and they come late evening, early mornings, during the day, and I think it's the Riverside County Sheriff's Department responsible. This is probably something I've heard and pumped every other day, and not that you have control or factor over that, but it's I understand you have a noise committee too, and I skipped that process because they're already, I skipped to this, but I just wanted to bring everybody's attention that I know you're going to increase the airport side, so that's going to increase the air traffic potentially. So the benefits to the residents, I lived here for over 20 years in a location, and I don't know, it's going to be a hard one to balance, I guess, by public, I guess, discord, I don't see how it benefits me by having the airport road and having a law enforcement use helicopters in the fashion that they used to. And you may know about CBAY, or Valley Association of Governments' new narrative about air pollution. And I'm sure you know that for airplanes and trains, or the state and the county just want to get the hands on that to regulate the pollution on those. So I don't want to help them with that, but I think hopefully you can look into this noise issue, because I know it's a concern. I've seen it written about a lot, so, and I'm just going to put mine in writing today and submit it. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson, for your comments. And at this time, Anyone else?
So we do have Stuart Gandolf and John Willoughby in the meeting. Mr. Gandolf and Willoughby, the item that you'd like to speak to is actually item 8J, which we will be opening public comments at that time. So I'm going to lower your hands and then I will call on you when we get to your item and we open public comments for that item. Thank you. Do we have anyone else in Zoom that would like to raise their hand at this time to speak in the general public comments period?
Seeing none.
One moment, please. One moment. One moment. Mr. Willoughby, you may now mute yourself and speak if you wish to speak in general public comments, not on the 8J car rental car wash facility item.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
You have 3 minutes.
Right, so I put at the end of the comment that I was going to present that I met a personal commitment, which I just left to go to my car so I could speak about this. So I asked that someone read my comment out loud during the 8J because I have to go back into this commitment, or I could read it now.
Whatever you want. If you want to let him speak on this comment, that's fine. But just, going ahead to the comment on what items that can come up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Willoughby, you can speak now on item 8J. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. So my name is John Wilhelmy, and at last month's Noise Committee meeting, I gave a public comment about excess noise from the Enterprise Rent-A-Car's vehicle washing operations. I appended that one-page comment to the input that I'm providing now, and I'm very grateful to see that this commission has included this issue on tonight's agenda because it's incredibly important to me and several of my neighbors. Briefly about me, I've lived next to the airport for several years, and I've lived in urban settings for more than 35 years prior. And over that entire time, I've never once complained to a city official about any issue, noise or otherwise. I had 0 complaints about the airport here for the first few years that I lived at my residence. My first ever complaint to any city official was in September of 2023, when Enterprise modified its car washing operations on North Civic Drive. Their modification caused a new, loud, intermittent whistling noise that I could hear inside my house. It occurs hundreds of times per day on weekdays, weekends, and holidays, and it could be heard at more than 20 homes in the Sunmore neighborhood. And I gather that the Sunmore Neighborhood Organization will submit a letter about this issue as well. Regardless of the decibel levels of this noise, it is the nature of this noise, the high-pitched whistling that could be heard repeatedly at our homes all day long, that's literally intolerable. We've been forced to listen to this every day for about 5 months. So I continue to maintain that no other rental car company makes this noise, and no car washing facility anywhere in Palm Springs makes this noise. And what's beyond frustrating to me is that we aren't complaining about some exotic new technology for which scientists and engineers have yet to figure out how to control noise. We're talking about a car wash. In the year 2024, what car wash is allowed to begin operating noise generating equipment next to a residential neighborhood and do so without enclosures or other meaningful abatement, and ostensibly without going through a permitting process. So my reason for commenting is, again, to offer constructive solutions. So first, I offer to have any commission member visit our backyard to listen to this noise. I included my contact information on my submission. Please feel free to take me up on this offer. Second, I request that the commission urge in the strongest possible terms some type of immediate follow-up action and allow the community to weigh in on proposals as well as have independent oversight. And third, I'm willing to hire an independent noise consultant at my expense to provide actionable, reasonable, and effective advice if I knew that advice would be heeded. So I conclude by appealing to your independent authority to hopefully make something happen soon. And I thank you for letting me speak out of order. I didn't realize I would have to speak later. So thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comments, Christina?
Do we have anyone else on Zoom that wishes to raise their Zoom hand to speak in public comments?
Seeing none, we will close public comments. And at this time, I will entertain motion. to approve.
One second, we have the other gentleman. Let me just make sure he can wait for the next. One moment. Oh, he lowered his hand. We're good.
All right, at this time, I will entertain motion to approve the minutes from the October 18th.
Make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Any further changes or thoughts? Seeing none, all in favor?
We'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Dada,
Yes.
Beltman,
Yeah.
Fong, Martin,
Yes.
Michaelis,
Yes.
Hi,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Thank you.
At this time, we will introduce a new team member of the Airport Commission Airport Authority, Paula Park.
Hello, nice to meet everyone.
Paula, would you like to give a brief update on yours?
We'll see you tomorrow.
Well, I am, again, Paula Pack. I am a longtime resident of 20 years here in the Coachella Valley. I live in La Quinta. My background, originally was in the legal field. I was a legal assistant, paralegal, estate planning, that sort of thing. And then I sort of did a pivot and went into hospitality. I love people. I'm a people person. I'm a servant at heart, and that really fit my sort of personality. And I ended up here because I've always wanted to work for the government and serve my community. So lucky enough to get hired, and here I am, whatever you need.
So for the commission, Paula is actually filling the executive administrative assistant role, the role that Christina used to fill, and she's been doing 2 jobs for about a year now. So we finally filled that position, and happy to have Paula on the team.
Welcome aboard, Paula.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we will move on to our budget and finance committee.
We have Commissioner Martin will be giving an update this evening.
Hi, everybody. Yesterday, the finance committee subcommittee met with staff to go over a few items, all of which are on today's agenda. First was the baggage claim project update, in which staff presented a couple of different options for the baggage claim project, all of which have pros and cons, and all of which have different price tags. I think it was agreed that there's a little bit more information that the staff needs to gather before a formal vote is done, and so we didn't take any action on the project, but they'll walk you through the various options. Second item we reviewed was the financial consulting agreement with Frasca. Again, that's on the presentation today. We did listen to the presentation, and the subcommittee voted 3-0 to approve or recommend approval of the engagement. And then the last item was a mid-year budget review. Victoria walked us through the financial update and with some very material changes in both revenue and expense. I won't go into describing those. Victoria will do that. She'll do a great job. But I'll be on chime in at the appropriate time. That was it for meeting yesterday.
Thank you, and now, do you have any public comments on this subject?
Is there anyone in the public or on Zoom that wishes to provide public comment on this item? I believe we have no public comments for this item.
Then you see now we move on to financial consultants agreement. Victoria, Matt.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Dada. And it's a pleasure to see you. All right, so today we have for the commission before you is for the commission to recommend to the city council the approval of a contract service agreement to provide financial consulting services to Frasca Associates LLC in the amount of 3.5 million over a 5-year term. The airport worked with procurement and contracting. We issued a request for proposal for financial consultant services, and we received 4 proposals. An evaluation committee was prepared, and it consisted of city staff, as well as the city finance department, as well as airport finance staff from San Diego and Long Beach Airport. So they had an opportunity to assist us with the evaluation of the proposals and to score the proposals based off of the criteria that was published in the request. The evaluation committee determined that we have a most highly qualified individual or company, and that is going to be Frasca. So we're recommending that the contract is awarded to Frasca. I do have Matt Townsend and Ken Goodshine on the line. They are going to give a brief overview about their company, as well as some of the projects that they're going to be helping us with. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Matt.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you can see the presentation on screen. My name is Matt Townsend. I'm a director with Frasca & Associates, and we're really excited to have been selected by the procurement panel to be Palm Springs' next financial consultant and advisor. Just wanted to take a minute to introduce ourselves. I am our designated project manager for this assignment. I'm joined on this call by Ken Goodshine, who is the founder and principal of the firm based in New York, who has responsibility for overseeing this project as well as Anderson Bannard, who is the lead analyst assigned to this project. A little overview of our firm. We celebrated our 25th anniversary last year, and we are a full-service airport consulting firm. This map shows the clients that we have served over our 25-year history. And then at the bottom, we did want to note our extensive experience serving clients in Southern California. I lead our work in Long Beach and Orange County. I've also done work in LA. Ken has been heavily involved in the financial planning and then the revenue bond funding transactions for the terminal redevelopment projects in San Diego. In addition to providing the traditional suite of financial consulting services for the airport sector, what is also unique about us is that we are all municipal advisors, certified municipal advisors with the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board and the Securities and Exchange Commission. And we're proud to have been for quite a while now, the leading financial advisor for the sector, having advised on $27 billion of airport revenue bond transactions since 2020, and $6 billion alone last year. We understand you guys are ready to go with a lot of exciting projects on the horizon, and we're happy to be able to support you with our team. We understand from Victoria that the initial thrust of work will really be continued implementation of the AULA, or the Airline Use and Lease Agreement, that went into effect this year, with one of the most important tasks being to calculate the mid-year rates and charges based upon mid-year estimates of revenues, expenses, and activity pursuant to the Airline Use and Lease Agreement. Also, over the next 60 days, we hope to help you guys with days cash liquidity forecast, cash forecast, taking into account various scenarios of capital program spend over the remainder of the fiscal year. Looking ahead for the rest of the year, we hope to assist you with the fiscal year 2025 budgeted rates and charges calculations, which will be the second year under this agreement. also understand that you intend to extend your rental car concession agreement for a year and begin planning for a successor agreement and negotiations with the rental car companies in connection with the planned Conrack project. We also are prepared to support you with an amendment to your PFC applications that is in process, as well as beginning planning and strategy for the new PFC application in support of the terminal expansion projects that you guys are planning right now. And then finally, we hope to be able to assist the master plan team with financial planning. A longer term for fiscal 25 will be the first rates and charges settlement or true up under the new airline use and lease agreement. Really get into the weeds of the capital program financial planning, help you develop financial policies and financial targets in support of your anticipated bond financings, and to prepare financial projections that allow you to make informed decisions about capital improvement program alternatives and funding plans. Other than that, I mentioned the rental car concession negotiations and other lease agreements support that may come up over the next year. And then finally, long-term work over the remainder of the contract is really largely going to be related to the implementation of the master plan recommended improvements. Big projects with the Conrack proposed FIS and terminal expansion. We hope to support you with strategy for your revenue bond financings, and before you know it, you'll be starting negotiating the successor airline use and lease agreement, building upon the strengths that the foundation that you laid with this new hybrid agreement that went into effect this year. That's all we have. We're really excited to be working in Palm Springs and to support you with as you implement these exciting expansion projects.
All right, thank you so much, Matt.
Do we have any public comments on this subject?
Anyone on Zoom that wishes to provide public comment on this item? Anyone in the meeting? We have no public comment for this item.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from our commissioners?
We're looking to approve this.
Yes, we are looking to approve the agreement, or to recommend to the city council the approval of the agreement.
Second.
Let's vote.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Banks?
Yes.
Burke?
Yes.
Caldwell?
Yes.
Corcoran?
Yes.
Dada?
Yes.
Delgado?
Yes.
Feldman?
Yes.
Fong? Martin?
Yes.
Michaelis?
Yes.
Hi?
Yes.
Wise?
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, Victoria, further proceed on the financials.
All right, good evening. So I do want to start off with saying that myself and Commissioner Martin have been working together on the financials over the last few months. We've been making some modifications to the financials. So I just want to thank Commissioner Martin for all of your support and all of your guidance on the financials. So you will see some changes. One of the requests that Commissioner Martin recommended was, and I completely agree, and it's good that we have to have this in here so that everybody knows what these accounts are for. Sometimes I'll do an update, and it's not very often where I'll say what these funds are for. So this is a good opportunity for us to always go back and to reference the financials to show what our revenues are and what our expenses are and what those funds are actually for. So I'm just going to ask if anybody has any questions in regards to the financials that end on January 31st, 2024.
No comments. We move on to operations, property.
We need to open it for public comments real quick. Anyone on Zoom that wishes to provide public comment on this item? Please raise your Zoom hand. Anyone in the meeting that wishes to provide comment? We have no public comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we move on to operations, property, and facility. Committee meeting update.
Okay, we had a productive meeting a week or so ago. Time flies when you're having fun. We're on PSP. We had a briefing on a new backup plan system, with another item on the agenda, so correct. So we'll leave that for that. I did have the opportunity to give some feedback in that meeting about items related to baggage claim area. I'll just have a follow-up call with Jeremy, who had a nice dialogue, and there's more to discuss. But I don't think we have time for that right now, sad to say. We had a great update from Ramon about, with some data about the parking, facilities and, how that utilization went, particularly during the holidays, and at least from my perception of the data, it looked like the airport handled that really well. I think we did not have a day when we exceeded total capacity, if I remember correctly. So that to me is a sign of good planning. It's called excellent planning.
Dude, excuse me, does that answer our question about the numbers we asked for in terms of utilization of the closest parking? And how long was the average stay in that parking lot that was raised with another citizen our last meeting?
We have that, I believe, as item 8A.
Later coming. Good, thank you.
You will address.
Keep going.
And finally, on Wi-Fi, Jeremy updated us that we're on the verge of beginning implementation of improved Wi-Fi capacity here, starting with 2 terminals. I think finishing up front before getting to the parking areas of phase 2. By coincidence, I was in attendance at the economic development and business retention meeting with the head of our teams there. You know, this is just Jeremy's, so we haven't heard this, but for the members of the commission, he actually didn't know I was a member of the airport commission when he gave an update on the airport Wi-Fi at that meeting, in which he said he was, and this is a paraphrase, these are my words, not his, but essentially a surprise / shock at the inadequate capacity of Wi-Fi here at the airport, and is, I think, committed to the implementation, you know, based on his analysis, and he's the expert, that we really do have important upgrades to do to facilitate Wi-Fi availability to our traveling public. So that is good news. He gave that update without being asked at that meeting, so that was interesting and helpful. I think that covers everything. For now, there's some concession issues, but we have some concession agenda items, so we'll leave it for that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any public comments?
Anyone on Zoom who wishes to provide public comment at this time, please raise your Zoom hand. Anyone in the meeting? We have no public comments. Thank you.
All right, and this time we will move on to the baggage claim expansion update.
Thank you, Chairman Donna. On the line, we have Neil McLean. Neil is with Gensler. He's one of our on-call architects for the airport. He's been around for a while, understands the facility, understands the airport, and he's going to walk you through some concepts that have come forward with the bag claim. I do want to emphasize that we won't be voting on that today. The initial plan was to have both the operations committee and the finance committee review, make a recommendation to the full committee for a vote. And we would have done that tonight. We have since gotten new information from the FAA on a couple of things, which I'll speak to after Neil goes through his presentation. But we'll talk about that a little bit later, but there will not be a vote today on the baggage claim concept. So just wanted to make that clear, and I'll hand it off to Neil to start your presentation.
Great, thank you. Just want to make sure everybody can see the screen. Can you see the presentation slide?
Yes, we can see the
Okay.
screen.
Perfect, thank you. All right. We're going to walk through the project briefly, a little bit of background, and then we're going to review the planning options and look at the relative costs between those three planning options that we have. So first, the purpose of this project is really to alleviate the congestion that we're experiencing in the bag claim hall between the rental car operation and the bag claim operation itself. So the facility is a little undersized. There's congestion during the space during peak times, and this project is designed to address that. The way we're going to address that is we are expanding the building to meet passenger activity level 2, and this comes directly out of the master plan work. They had PAL 1 through 4, and the idea of this project is to get us quite a few years into the future, expand the building, take that congestion away. And the way we're going to do this is putting in 4 slope plate carousel devices. They have a higher capacity than the flat plate devices that we have right now. At about 10,000 square feet, we have some options that you'll see in this moment here. Some are larger than that, but the ideal at the start of the project was around 10,000 square feet. And also this calls for, under passenger activity level 2, about 1 additional rental car position, and then a couple hundred square feet for the bag service office. And so I'm going to just zoom in here so you can see the difference between where we are today at around 3 million MAP, and passenger activity level 2 is around 4.8 million MAP. And they plan to be at that level sometime between 2032 and 2036. So a few years out, but that will get us quite a few years of usable life out of the facility. Additionally, I just wanted to show you a breakdown of the areas that we're looking at in the project itself. And I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit. Currently, of the bag claim space itself, the bag service office is about 784 square feet. Bag claim takes about 14,300 square feet of that. And then the rental car customer service counter and the associated offices are around 5,300 square feet. So we have a space there that's about 20,000 square feet, 2,418 to be precise. Passenger activity level 2 forecasts that we need about 1,000 square feet for the bag service offices. For bag claim itself, we need about 24,100 square feet. And then for the rental car operation and customer service office, we need about 9,800 square feet. So a facility around 34,000 square feet. And then on the far right, just showing the approximate difference in the need that we need to for passenger activity level 2, an additional 14,484 square feet in total if we put all of these functional areas back into the space that we have. And this just compares the bags, the arrival of bags in the bag claim hall, and the total size for the bag area itself, specifically the bag claim piece. So we're, as I mentioned, around 14,300 square feet today, and our passenger activity level need is around 24,100 square feet. This is a rendering that we did last summer of the project when it was just getting off the ground. And it's just showing a view of our most simple option. And it actually basically shows expanding the building 1 bay towards us into the rental car ready lot and 1 bay to the back. It also, the point of this rendering was to show that we are extending the design of the existing building. We're not altering the existing building. The design expression is going to be basically the same. And we're continuing the canopy at the front of the building along the curb. So the idea is that it fits with the architecture that we have today. There's no need to make a big departure or a statement with the architecture of this particular expansion. This is a plan of the space today. So you can see, as I mentioned, we have 20,400 square feet. There are 3 flat plate devices in the space in the back there. And then the rental car operation is towards the front here with the queue area, the counters, and then the offices. And on the left in that overspill space, There are some rental car counters, but there's also a little bit of bag service, and then there's some leftover space that is kind of general use space as well. Our first option, we call it option alternate A, is our simple option that we've tried to meet all of our needs with. This option is expanding the building a bay to the back and then a bay to the left in this view, which would be into the rental car ready lot that we have today. We did an analysis to understand the bag demand, and we established the presentation length that we need to accommodate our demand in this space. And we came up with a layout here of 4 slope plate carousel devices. There's 2 different sizes to accommodate different demand needs at different times. But what's represented here is meets our need through passenger activity level 2. You'll also see in the design of this particular option, we removed the rental car operation from this space. One of the big deals is we're trying to expand it as much as possible to make sure we don't have that congestion. And we've moved it outside of the building into in the yellow over here, left, into a temporary operation. That temporary operation would need to stay in place until the CONRAC is completed. So just important to note, to make this work, to make it be efficient for passengers, we moved the rental car out of this space into a temporary building. The temporary building would need to be there until the CONRAC is open. The other thing I show in this plan is in the upper left. To make this work in terms of phasing, there will be a period of time where we need a temporary bag claim. We need a temporary bag claim because we can't keep our space operational during construction, because what we're going to be doing is a seismic upgrade to the building, and we're actually proposing that we take that one step further and replace all of the structure in the building. The seismic upgrade is very invasive, and it means that we're going to be upgrading footings, some of the connections at the ceiling, and the diaphragm of the roof. And as well, we have to address the shear of the building. When we move these walls back, we just can't have like the ceiling hanging there. We have to readdress how that all works together. And we actually propose, and what is in our price, what is in the cost, the rough order magnitude cost that you see in the bottom right, is replacing all the structure in this building. So that means it gets a new exterior enclosure, a new roof. There's all new interiors into this space as well, new flooring, walls, ceilings. We're addressing all of those areas. But the point of all that explanation was we need to operate outside of this space while that work is taking place. So we're proposing a temporary bag claim in the upper left-hand corner there. It would be served from the air side. The bags have to come in. We would use 2 of our carousel devices that we're planning for the long-term use. We would use them in this temporary space. They can be broken down and moved into the building for our final use, into our renovated space itself. The other functional items in this plan, we are adding down in the bottom right here in green, 2 single occupant restrooms. We're also upgrading the mechanical system. So we're going to create a new mechanical room here on the right in purple. And then in the bottom here, where the existing offices for the rental car facility are, we're going to turn those into the bag service offices. So those are all the functional elements in here. And as I mentioned, this option is running around $41 million, and it includes those 4 slope plate devices, moving that outside, replacing the structure, the new exterior enclosure, all new systems to the building. Going to go to alternate B. So this option was looking at, could we accommodate all of the current functions that we need today in the space and meet our passenger activity level number 2? So yes, we can. It just means we need to expand the building into a larger area. So instead of 1 bay, we're basically expanding it by 2 bays to the air side and 2 bays further over into the rental car ready lot. And that expansion is about 18,462 square feet of additional space. We fit the 4 slope plate carousel devices, but additionally, what we're keeping inside the space and what differentiates it from alternate A is that we're keeping the rental car operation inside the bag claim hall. So the queue is here in front. The rental car counters are here and the office is along the front. In this version, we are also completely replacing the structure, so making that upgrade and that investment right now. And then on the left-hand side, I show a temporary bag claim and temporary rental car operation. So we only need those temporary items during construction because we're going to replace the rental cars inside this building. That will go away after construction, but we feel it's more efficient to put it in one temporary building and have both operations in that space rather than having the trailers and having a separate sprung structure type temporary building there. So that's why it's one large rectangle on the left. Additionally, like the other scheme in the bottom right in green here, we're showing 2 single occupant restrooms, and then we fit the new bag service offices in blue here on the right. Mechanical space that we're holding forward is over on the left-hand side here. Let's see here. I think it's really the same points, the 4 devices. We exceed the 10,000 square feet ideal that we were looking at originally, but we meet our need. We keep everything inside the building. The last option is a much simpler option, but it's got some pluses and minuses here. This was originally conceived before we heard about kind of the preferred option for the master plan. So the idea behind this was, what is the minimal amount that we needed to add to the building if eventually all of this was going to be moved to a new facility at the south end, if we were going to build a new airport. And so the idea was, well, we need to build at least 10,000 square feet because we got to get that bag claim device in there somehow. And so what you're seeing is on the left, kind of a new square addition there with those 2 devices inside of it. And then we were going to come back and renovate the rest of the bag claim hall, put the other 2 devices in there, move the rental car operation into the temporary trailers on the left where you see in yellow, because we wanted to take them out of the mix because we needed that space to alleviate the congestion. This is really the space you have today, moving the rental cars out and pushing it further into the ready lot that exists. So we tried to accommodate as best we could. And the other point on this one is that we are not addressing any replacement of structure or structural upgrade to this building. The bag claim hall is basically isolated. There's a double row of columns on the right-hand side, which isolates it and separates it from the main building structure. And then on the left, we would isolate it from our little addition piece. So we wouldn't be addressing the structure in this. And that is also why this perpendicular wall maintains in the space itself, and we have to get around it because we don't want to touch those structural items which are necessary for the building to stand up today and basically what it's built around. And when it was expanded in the early 90s from an outdoor space to an indoor space, they built around that structure and knitted that all together. We don't want to touch that in this option. So no upgrades to the building. A temporary system, not necessarily required. We think we can build this building on the left, get an operation up and running, then go back into the rest of the structure, clean it up, new floor, new walls, new ceiling, all of that stuff, but not new structure and not new enclosure. Let's just be clear about that. And then put those devices in and then knit the 2 spaces back together. So we would have a temporary, quote unquote, temporary operation, but it would be in our new building. We would have to squeeze into that space for a little bit of time to make sure that everybody could get their bags and that we could operate in that manner. And then I just want to show, this last slide just shows when we have a temporary operation and when we have the rental car temporary moved outside of the building, it displaces cars from the rental car lot that we have right now. So we do need lot A on a temporary basis until the Conrack is built to accommodate those spaces. There's roughly 320 ready spaces in this particular lot for the rental car operation today. We would be displacing quite a few of those because of the construction, because of the temporary operation, and also because we're just expanding the building. So we would need lot A to take up that surplus. And I also show just here, when we have the temporary bag claim building in orange, we need to use the space behind it in the apron to get the bags back into the building. So we want to isolate that operation and give the contractor enough space around the building to do the work that they need to do on that site. So I'm going to leave it at that point. If anybody wants me to go back to a specific alternate or option, and if you have any further questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Neil? I do have a couple of points that I want to talk about, but I want to make sure there's time for questions for
I
him.
do have a question, but I think your information will update us more thoroughly, so.
Sure.
Can you go
Okay.
first and then?
So I will go into that now. So as I mentioned, the original plan was to bring this before the Finance Committee and Operations Committee, get some feedback, have a vote, and then bring that to the full commission. Shortly after we met with Operations Committee, we heard from the FAA on 2 points of information. The first was regarding the ATP grant that they announced last year for us last March. So remember, that was a $5.7 million grant. That grant, unlike our AIP grants, is only valid for a period of 1 year, not 4 years. The issue that we were running into is we're still in the environmental process for this, largely because the building is on the National Historic Register, and that requires a couple of different layers of additional scrutiny. And as a result of us still being in the environmental process, the FAA determined that we could not use that grant. They took the $5.7 million and allocated it to another airport. So we don't believe that will impact this project. However, we wanted to take a breath, look over our future projects, see what the timing of those were, and get a sense for how that factored into our future projects. We're working through that process now, and Nebraska will be helping us with that over the next coming weeks. The second bit of information had to do with the timing of our projects relative to environmental processes. So there was a concern on the FAA side that if we were currently in an environmental process on the baggage claim, that it would impact subsequent projects, such as a potential North Concourse expansion or consolidated rental car facility, if we did those projects within 5 years of this project being executed. We're still trying to get additional information on that. We've been working with our consultants. We actually met with them today and they gave us some additional information, but really the FAA is going to have to be the determinant factor on that. And what that means for us is if we start this project, we're pretty much committed. There is the potential that we would not be able to do another project like the North Concourse expansion and FIS, the consolidated rental car facility, within 5 years of having done that project because of the environmental piece. Again, we don't think their interpretation of that is completely accurate. I think there's a misunderstanding there of what we're trying to do, but we need to get additional information from the FAA. So we put a pause on this entire thing while we work through those issues to try and figure out what's happening. But that's why we're not taking a vote today.
Lots of questions. How long have we been in the environmental process?
Over a year. It's just, well, actually not just that, a year.
And then did we think it was gonna take that long more than anticipated, or? What was the time of this building that we thought we were gonna be done with environmental?
We thought we would be finished with environmental in 6 months.
And we're still not done, and then we're anticipating maybe how much more time for the environment to be done.
That's unknown.
So, of course, like many people, I'm upset. They took the ATP funds. It was an application, I'm assuming, that we put through. And how long was that process? And how much time did it take to do the application for the ATP?
We applied for 4 ATP grants in 2022. And that did take about a month to complete those and get those submitted, and then a couple of months for the decision.
And of course, I'm sure that you guys fought hard to try to keep the 5.7 and for them to be a little bit more patient with us as we went through the environmental process, considering the historical piece that obviously none of us can control. And so I'm disappointed that they weren't a little bit more considerate when it came to that. And they just decided to take the 5.7 million away altogether. Did they suggest at that time that perhaps when we're done with the environmental process, that we can reapply for the ATP.
They did suggest that we could reapply. We actually did reapply and we were told that we did not get funds for this year. So we're going to try again next year and see where we end up. There, again, it's a competitive process. We're competing with every airport in the nation. So we'll see where that lands.
Thank you. I do have one question for Neil. When it comes to the Plan A and B, basically the four slopes, the temporary system, the temporary baggage claim, the only difference that I see between both of them is the additional 9,000 square feet for Plan B. That would be an additional $5 million.
The additional, in option B, we're adding 8,400 more square feet than we are in option A. Well, it's probably a little bit more, but that's the big difference. We're almost doubling the space.
And so, but if we, in the A plan, we basically managed to condense it all to save $5 million, but to add an additional 9,000 square feet, double the feet, an additional $5 million.
Well, in option B, the rental cars, everything stays in the building.
Oh, I see.
With option A, the rental cars go outside permanently or temporarily until a contract is built. So
And
they
then what-
don't remain in the building.
The temporary baggage claim, is that in phase one?
So the temporary baggage claim has to be built no matter what in both phases. It goes away when the permanent building is built.
So that was actually one of the questions I kind of formulated yesterday is what are the pros and cons between A and B? If one of the pros is having rental cars in the same building with baggage claim, is that the right long-term solution as opposed to putting in the contract? What's the pros and cons of that? Spend $5 million more to have it there, which is not. I think that's where we need some more guidance between A and B.
Yeah, so for our perspective, anytime that you have the opportunity to build something and get as much space as possible, you do it. And the reason why is because you don't want to end up 10 or 15 years down the road trying to scramble to figure out how to solve that problem like we're doing now. So alternative B from that perspective, even though we have future plans to build a consolidated rental car facility where those desks would be removed, that still gives us space to work with over the long term for expanded baggage claim, whatever that.
So you may end up moving them over to contract at some point if you needed space for baggage.
Correct.
Have the current companies expressed any preference for where they are or when there's a contract in the existing baggage claim or at the contract?
Not relative to this specific plan. I can tell you from a customer experience perspective, they do prefer to have desks right in baggage claim, just, for that customer experience. But they haven't seen these plans yet, so they haven't provided input.
Commissioner Banks?
I didn't see that. What are the durations? Options. Like temporary thing. How long is temporary,
That would really come down to the planning and phasing of the project itself, and that we don't have a good sense for.
Okay.
Likely construction on one of these projects, 18 to 24 months. So thereabouts is what we'd be looking at, but that's just a guesstimate.
Perhaps this is a question for Kensley, but between A and B and during that construction phase, is there one that is more customer friendly than the other?
That's an interesting question. I would say B is slightly more customer friendly because what we're going to be doing is we're going to close down this space during construction. No one can go into it. We're going to have to bring our passengers outside along the front of the building, and they're going to come into our temporary building. In this version, we have the flexibility to orient maybe the rental car on the left and the bag claim towards the back. We always want the claim devices to be towards the back, but when you come into the space, you can probably see them in this particular option. We need it on the back so that the arriving bags that are coming in from the air side can be inserted through the security wall, so to speak. In option A, passengers do have to travel along the front of the building. They have to come to the back here. Since bag claim is separated from the rental car operation, you come in here, and then if you were renting a car, you would come out of the bag claim, enter the rental car buildings, pick up your keys and the contract, and then go out to the lot here on the left or across the street. So technically, I would say that option B is a little more customer friendly because you're in the space a little quicker, and it's a little more comprehensive about where things are. We just couldn't fit all of this stuff physically closer, and there's no great space to put things. There's no other space in the airport on the right-hand side for these temporary operations. So they're kind of in their closest spots, but they may not, I would say in option B, you probably get to the bag claim a little faster because you're coming into the building and you can realize, bag claim is back there. I can see it. Rental car is to the left. Perhaps it's a higher level of passenger experience.
Commissioner Young, you have a question?
Yes. Neil, in terms of option B, would that allow us when we move to PAL 3 or 4 to accommodate the necessary baggage and traffic flow without a structural expansion? Or would we still anticipate that in 3 or 4 that would require expansion beyond this broadened footprint?
So I think there's, let me just go back to PAL 3. So PAL 3, there's not a call for an increase in the space itself. The numbers are relatively the same. PAL 4, we jump up. We need quite a bit more space. And PAL 4 would be part of the larger master plan expansion of the concourse itself. So we could almost get there. I don't want to go out on a limb and say it's going to be perfect. But I think that based on the master planning information, these numbers seem to hold. But I would say that we would probably be you're going to get to a point where you're going to stress the system. Could this space accommodate another carousel? That would be debatable because we're trying to lay this out in an optimal sense and keep everything separated. And it's kind of the problem we have today. We'd be looking at expanding the building. But by the time, and Harry and Jeremy, please jump in. By the time we get to that, I think the other parts of the expansion will be well underway and they can address that demand.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. In the current area of the baggage claim and car rentals, plus the extra area where Budget and Avis have their little additional space, what's the total square footage today, those two spaces?
I'll just go back to, so existing today, and maybe I need to repeat, I'll answer it and see if I answer your question. I just couldn't quite hear the whole thing, but our total bag claim area that we have existing is around 20,418,000 square feet. The bag claim, that's the space where those devices are, is about 14,300. And then the rental car portion is about 5,300. So, 19 something. If you wanted to add those two together. Does that answer your question?
It does. The premise for my next question, which is, if we choose either A or B, we're talking about 20,000 square feet in B in total building. So we're essentially kind of on a temporary basis, kind of have apples to apples amount of space roughly. If you build this temporary building that's sketch all B. And I'm not sure in A whether those two yellow structures is more or less than 5,000 square feet. So
They are. They're about 5,300 square feet, as close as we can get to match that number based on the modular size of the way these buildings come. So that was the goal, to size those. I just want to go back here. Well, we're trying to get closer to this 10,000 number because we know that we need that space. So they're sized to meet that expansion for PAL2.
Okay, so the point I made the operations committee meeting, so I'll make again now, is, you were asked about the timeline, 18 to 24 months. To me, that means 48 months, when you get everything gets done, and delays and contractors and supply chain, blah, blah. And I just, for the rest of the commission, want to say I am concerned about what that experience will be like, and that we not under plan or under plug the amount of space that we really need, because we're doing this under a scenario of growth. We're not going to be at the same level of passengers over. This is going to start probably in 2 years, and then it's going to be, say, 24 months or 36 months. I'll say, okay, maybe it won't be 48 months. So it's going to be a long time that our traveling public is going to endure this. And I know in order to make progress, airports have construction, customers have to work around it. Anybody who went to LaGuardia for like 5 years, and other airports have experienced that. So we're not going to avoid it. It's part of life in airports. But I just want to make 2 points. One is, I'm really worried about these 5,200 or whatever the square foot of these two yellow buildings is going to be, and what's going to happen at our mass waste capacity times, whether people are going to be pushed out to the outside, standing in sun and rain and other weather, and just lines that are too long because these two buildings can't really handle that. If they can, or whether they can or can't. And then the other part is just to remember, if you look at this, today, customers walk out the door. The first lane is pickup cars, the second lane is taxis and Uber. We have an older demographic, and we're gonna ask them, I don't know what we're gonna ask them to do, and so I'm just gonna ask staff to sort of contemplate, and as we go through this process, as we're not under pressure to vote on this today, how are we gonna facilitate the passage of customers in this temporary baggage claim area for up to 4 years, or 3 years, to get to, their transportation mode. It's a whole different deal than what we have today, and I don't think we've addressed that yet, but we have time.
Can I have a question? With the loss of the FAA money, does this project now roll into the long range plan discussions? So this will now be a part of the discussion of the contract in phase 1 of version 1A. So we would look at all 3 of these projects together.
It would unlikely, no, I wouldn't say that, because it would take a lot longer to get the environmental clearances and design the rest of
the whole thing.
Yeah, that expansion. So we have a critical need now with baggage claim. I think our preference would be to move forward with expanding baggage claim and then deal with the rest of those situations at another time.
What your fear is, if we move forward with this, that puts phase 1 of 1A on the back burner, or could it?
It could. Based on how the FAA communicated that to us in our last call. Again, we still need to have more conversations with them because we think they may be interpreting our projects a little differently than they're actually intended to be. But
very quickly for the rest of the commission, about, I guess, a month ago, we had a subcommittee operations meeting. We did somewhat of a deep dive into alternative A, B, and C. And we did determine that alternative B was the better option. And it was based on staff input and, as you say, less intrusion to our customers. And I just want to make sure that the subcommittees have looked at this, our operations, and alternative B just seems like the likely option.
That's what so, but I did raise the same issues there and we're still outstanding. So, I think we're both of those things are true at the same time.
So next steps? So next steps is we have a meeting with the FAA tomorrow, where we're gonna post some questions, let them do their homework and get back to us. It normally takes a few weeks. We really want to keep Neil on track with his project. So to the extent that we can, we'll provide him with information that will allow him to move forward. But then we'll be bringing this back, hopefully for a vote very, very soon.
So just some understanding, we're seeking clarity from the FAA to see if we can move this forward for an action item. And hoping that they're not waiting for us to complete the environmental, which we still don't quite sure when we're gonna be done with it, and hoping that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So with the bipartisan infrastructure law, there were two mechanisms for funding, one being the ATP grant or the ATP program, the grant that we lost. The other one was an entitlement or allotment to airports over 5 years. So we already have money in place for a large chunk of this project. The only thing we're waiting for is the environmental clearance. We presume that's going to clear at some point. We just don't know when, but we have that money in hand to be able to do at least a large proportion of this project.
So because it's a multi-phase project, if we don't get the ATP, which usually, you know, if we're approved for the ATP, usually if we apply again, we have just as strong of an opportunity to take that money back. But so it takes a large portion of what's needed to develop or to build out the baggage portion of it, because it's a multi-phase development. You know, how successful do you think that we will be into getting to all of our phases?
I think once we get the environmental cleared, once this thing is designed, we'll be rocking and rolling. We won't have any problems there. It'll just be a matter of will we be competitive enough over the next 2 years to compete with the other airports for additional funds to get it done. And then how that impacts our downline projects, whatever those might be for the next 5 to 10 years.
I think based on the plans, and I think that's what you were seeking for recommendation, I do, based on that, not knowing whether, you know, we're gonna get that ATP back, and obviously that makes a difference of what plan we're gonna go for, but it makes more sense for me to do B, only because it's doubling the space, and in long-term planning, we can do a lot more than having to come back and, you know, rebuild structure, which is where a lot of that money comes in. And so it makes more sense. Obviously, it's dependent on whether we have that additional 5 million or we can get it, but it just makes more sense that way.
Thank you for all the comments. Any other comments from commissioners? Any comments from public?
Do we have anyone on Zoom that wishes to raise their virtual Zoom hand at this time to speak in public comments? Anyone in the meeting? We have no public comments for this item.
Is there anyone to step up and donate $5 million? All right, we move on to PSP stay and play visitor.
Do stay and play and market it together. It's actually in one presentation. That's okay. Go for it. Great. All right. So a little context on the scheduled departing seats. I've got some more data that I have when I created this for you guys. The Bello Airlines, which I do have on page 2 of my report, announced they're going to extend their service to Sonoma County throughout the whole summer, which is great. We'll have 13 non-stop destinations this summer versus 12 last summer, which is the most we've ever had. Be a great little summer heat escape to get to wine country. What I did not have though was the number of seats and how much capacity they're going to put in the market throughout the summer before I create report. I do have the information now, so a couple corrections on the first slide. March and April are still showing up on percentage of seats. May, June, and July are already showing down. May was 2.2%, actually going to be down 1.1% with Abelo's added service, only about 59 seats a day compared to May of last year. June is going to be down 6.4, will be down 5%, or we're going to do one flight a day, approximately 159 seats, basically one mainline flight a day. And the July is going to be down 6.4, so 7.9, also about one mainline flight a day. So the numbers may seem a little bit, but I think put in perspective on a daily, basically one daily flight is not too bad. Some of the contributing factors to that, I mentioned some of the notes here. That's an also we're doing some runway construction, so all airlines are having to reduce flights out there. Both United and Alaska have cut flights by about 50% on a lot of their routes. United had the aircraft ability to upgauge, so their seats are actually up compared to last summer, but the flight activity number of flights are actually down. Alaska, their number of seats to SFO are down compared to last summer. Southwest, as I mentioned, is still operating to kind of optimize the Palm Springs market. They're into what, third summer here, I think it is, or fourth summer. So still kind of right side of the market, figuring out days of the week and when they want to fly. San Jose, the summer they're taking to less than daily, so daily as it was last summer is also a contributing factor to our slightly being down this summer. But the summer, I think overall still looks pretty strong, of course, pretty good. So the next page, I'm looking at Belo. Sonoma, the summer January passenger count were down 1.4% over 2023, or just shy of 4,900 passengers. Contributing to that, as you guys know, the 737-9 MAX grounding. I ran through our numbers. We had 67 canceled flights with over 23,000 seats that were taken out of the market as a result. But our passenger count is only down 1,878, making the assumption that most passengers were able to get out on other flights on other airlines, and some of the other people probably just drove to nearby airports like Ontario to get out. So compared to how many cancellations we had for the MAX groundings and the passenger losses, we actually fared pretty well on that one. And then other updates, we have the Stay in Play Builder program, which was launched Monday of last week. Seems to be going pretty well. We're finally getting maybe 8 or 5 to a dozen uses so far today, but I think as people become aware of it, more of them may use it. I do want to reiterate because there were some news stories. So people do not have misunderstandings. The passes are not available during peak times. They're busy time of day when the line are their longest. We do not allow any business pass users to go through the line to make sure we ensure that passengers have priority and do keep going. Passengers, even when passes are available, passengers always have the priority. And then people who are using Stay Play, they aren't able to use a pre-check or they go through the standard screening line. They're not allowed to bring any kind of luggage with them. They can bring a personal item like a purse, for instance. And they also have to go through the same screening and background checks that an airline has to go through. For security standards go, they need the same standards as a regular flying passenger does. Do you have any questions on the Stay in Play program by chance?
I have a lot of comments in.
Okay, it's all right.
We're getting a lot of address on this. I don't know if you watched the Rogan report on NBC Palm Springs.
Yes, we have watched that.
And they had Jake out there, and Jake said there's only 2 or 3 days during Thanksgiving, Christmas when you can't find a parking spot. Then the next day they had, do you believe Jake?
Yeah.
Then the next day, Rogan actually came to Palm Springs, drove around for 20 minutes, paid $3, could not find a parking spot. And I mean, we're getting a lot of that press. I don't know.
That's most of it we got was that one show, and they reached out for an interview on that one. Jake did an interview, actually a very well interview, provided all kinds of information, all the positive pluses of it. They chose to use only certain segments to tell the story that they decided they want to tell ahead of time. Then they had a panel interview after that, and not tell us they were having a panel interview after that, and they had people to give opinions who were not experts on airports. One panelist was very positive on the program. The other one worked for a CPA firm, nothing to do with airports, and what he focused on was all about how it's going to jam up parking, jam up lines, and basically everything he was saying showed that you not actually have the information or bother to read the facts about the program, because he's talking about our busiest time of the day, but yet again, from this program's inception, we're not issuing any passes during the busiest times of day. We don't clog up our parking or lines. Plus, people who stay and play, they're not staying overnight. We have a lot of 2-hour parking up front that doesn't get used very often. We didn't talk about that either. We presented the fact, we actually had a call with our news editor a little later, and I said, we saw we did. Unfortunately, saying you, Jay, got to the personal attack on my staff, thought that was not appropriate. And then do you agree with the airport or the free airport line? So we had to call the news editor and discussed it, and they arranged another show, another segment, and that's when he came out with his video of the parking lot on that. And so we did reach out, talk about it, and we were even and so we reached out to try to correct the story, but another full story still didn't seem to give the facts, just give it their opinion of what they think of it. So that we just should move on, or not.
Do we know what Pittsburgh stopped the program?
I wasn't aware that Pittsburgh stopped theirs.
Yeah.
They were the first year to actually start this program.
Right.
I do know they're doing a big terminal upgrade and expansion. I don't know where they are. I don't know if that may be something to do with it, but I wasn't aware that they stopped their program. I do know for the last 12 months, about 5 airports have added this to it, including like Ontario one there about a year. So.
Here's a question. I don't want to leave criticism of this. Well, then, what is the general purpose? Just so I kind of get to explain to people, what are we trying to achieve?
Yeah, well, so the concessions program, we have a lot of new restaurants and shops coming in, right? So we get people to go through. It's also just part of like, as we talk about working on improving the passenger and the customer experience here at the airport. It basically takes you back to a time when this built, correct? You go back to the gate, you meet your friends and family, pre 9/11 times like that. So it gives people opportunity to spend more time with flow and just give people a more positive experience overall at Palm Springs International Airport. And when the concessions program is done, people will go back and visit the shops and restaurants, can increase revenues when they're fully open as well.
I like the idea. I come wait and sell sometimes for 45 minutes because the plane's delayed, but if I can come into the airport and get a beer, there's nothing on the other side of security, sit down and have a glass of wine or something, you have to go. Yeah, so that, to me, I think that's a great deal.
Yeah. Yeah, so most of the comments we've gotten are positive. There's been some that have focused like on the between lines. Those are people I think that just haven't read all the information. You actually go to the same play portion of our website. There's a full FAQ list that actually identifies when the passes are available, when they're not available. And we actually don't issue any more than 30 passes in one given hour. And I've kind of been checking here and there throughout the day since we've launched it. I've never seen more than 3 passes in any one given hour block taken up in use. So it's not adding really anything. So
do we tell them they have to leave in an hour?
They're valid the whole day. So basically, when you get your pass, you're told you have that. So say your pass for 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. You have to arrive at the checkpoint between that time frame, and it's printed on the pass what your time frame is. And TSA will let you through with your time frame. If you're not, TSA, their staff will be rejecting that one. And it's valid for the very good day. So if they go back at 3 o'clock, they can stay back there for a few hours and have dinner, but they have to be cleared out by the end of the day. Just like the week shop, yeah, that's all last wipe them down and make sure passengers go to the terminal as well. They would be, make sure they would drop too.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? No.
Move on to any comment from the public.
Anyone on Zoom that wishes to raise their virtual Zoom hand at this time to make a public comment? Anyone in the meeting? We have no public comments for this item.
Thank you. Move on to Vice Chair Cochran about the handout design review.
Let's have Jeremy give us a concessions update. And I'll do color commentary. We do that? Sure.
Since I wasn't at the ad hoc committee, so sure, we can run through the schedule real quick. I think everybody has it in their packet there. I'm not sharing it on the screen, but there have been some updates to the schedule. And just real quick, we're looking at 9 cities as kind of our first one to get completed in mid-March timeframe. And as you kind of go down the list, we get into April, May, our big ones, Las Palmas Oasis and Cactus the Cloud, the new Bono Bar, open in the May timeframe with Uptown Essentials and Las Castuelas, with Coachella Valley, kind of rounding out that first phase of stores open, by the end of May. And then we kind of get into the next phase. Once those open, then the next phase of stores close, right? So, we didn't want to close obviously everything at the same time. So barricades are up, all over the place. I'm sure if you've been traveling, you've seen the barricades up. We have the barricades up in the Bono across Las Palmas Oasis, so there's kiosks available there for retail. We have barricades up around Cactus the Cloud, so they're demoing the full fountain up there right now. And then we have a barricade wall up here downstairs for Las Cazuelas Oasis, or Las Cazuelas and Coachella Valley Coffee. And then we have the barricade walls up over in Agua Caliente as they're doing construction. So they're pretty heavy into the construction right now. We've run into a couple issues along the way. I think we have a little delay in Uptown Essentials, which is in the Agua Caliente. They ran into some walls that they were not expecting to run into structurally. So that's going to cause some slight delays as they figure out how to redesign the space. What else?
So I can do it.
Sure.
Okay, so in the ad hoc group, which is the advisory group to staff specifically on the progress with the concessions. We had a lot of discussion around the state of service today. And we agreed that there are some significant challenges we're hearing from people, long lines, difficulty finding coffee, things like this. So we shared that feedback with the Parodies, and part of this is just our growing pains. We are where we are with this whole process, and until 9 cities, our very first food and beverage thing opens up, we're going to continue to struggle and not be able to provide the service we want. However, I think Parodies is making an effort to open up and offer coffee in multiple locations. They're going to have a cart that runs around through it to try to address at least that short-term issue that everyone's upset about. Did I get that right, Todd, David? Is that hard?
In addition to that signage at each location saying it's brewed or they offer espresso, what type of coffee drinks that they have so that our customers know exactly what to do.
And they're in the process of adding a lot of that signage right now.
One of the updates on the pink door, this is the space that's pre-security where Starbucks used to be. Parodies has found that there's much more square footage than they originally anticipated. So they proposed that what we're going to call the pink door will be have greater service, greater offerings, more space, pre-security. And so we're pretty excited to see that, and we like the direction that's going in. There was lots of discussions around the temporary Avenue Empanadas space, and both the quality of the service, the way it functions operationally, and eventually quality of food. We took it as an opportunity, which David is taking the lead on, to review all of the proposed menus again. Early on, for those of you who knew, early on, we felt the menus were not very healthy. And so we worked with Parodies early on in the process to say, let's try to upgrade these menus with more healthy choices. The choices that right now, the temporary location of Café Empanadas, some people felt are really not healthy and the food is not the quality that we want. So we are going to look at the menus again, see where they're going, how they're evolving. And then we agreed to come back and look at this particular menu, which is temporary now, but eventually will be permanent at the top of the escalators. And one of the questions we asked was, if we don't feel this represents the quality we're looking for, can we have another concept? And so we're going to wait. We're going to go through the menu piece. We're going to return to the issue of the quality of the food and the service in this before we go ahead and spend money to build out a new restaurant. Let's make sure that something's going to work. Is that fair, David? Did I get that right?
Yeah, I have an annotation on the pink door.
You what?
I have something to add on the pink door though. Is this the right moment?
Oh, about the machines?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Or you want me to do that?
No, there's 4 vending machines. They were proposing to move those vending machines across the way and block those windows and reduce some of the seats. We told them that we didn't think that was a good idea. We got to find a place for those other vending machines. It would really service mostly staff and off hours, mostly, and the public if they're available. So we're in search of better locations for those machines and not cover the windows, number one, but more importantly, take out the seat. So we've given that. That's one of the implications of pink door. What happens to the vending machines? Did I get it, Victoria? Anything else? So the process continues. We're going to keep in touch with Perry's. We're pretty pleased with the progress that Marshall Group is making in terms of representing Palm Springs brands in some of their temporary stores. That's evolving nicely. And hopefully after our June 20th meeting, we can all go down to 9 cities and have a beer and a brand new concession. So more to come on those issues. Anything else?
Any comments from public?
Anyone on Zoom that wishes to provide public comment at this time?
And highly specify for items 8H and 8I too. Yeah.
Yes, for item eight, yes.
8H and 8I, yeah.
See, now we move on to Conference.
All right, so I'm actually gonna let Jeremy do the heavy lifting on this one because he's been most involved in it. But this is speaking to the comment that Mr. Willoughby made earlier at the beginning of the meeting regarding the enterprise rental car noise. And we want to talk a little bit about what's happened, how we got here, why there's noise generated over there, what steps we've taken since, and then we can have a discussion, a larger discussion about what that means. So I'll let Jeremy take a little bit.
Okay, I'll do the best I can here. So back in September, a member of the community, Sunmore, which is across from the, if everybody's familiar with North Civic Drive and the rental car walk ready areas, kind of along North Civic Drive, contacted us about some noise coming from the enterprise rental car wash. So Nikki, our airport planner, and I started looking into it and met with the gentleman to understand what the noise they were hearing, so we could better understand what was going on. We listened to the noise. It was coming basically from their car wash blowers that they use in their rental car ready area. So the rental car agencies all use quick wash and blower kind of facilities to quick turn their cars so they can continue renting in the busy parts of the season. So we met with the gentleman, we kind of came back, we met with Enterprise, reached out to Enterprise, we had some conversation with Enterprise, and Enterprise was very willing to be a good community partner and look at it as well to see what they could do. We got code enforcement through the city involved to see if they're meeting code. At the time, they were not meeting the certain decibel of code, so they're out of compliance. So we had further conversations with the resident as well as Enterprise, and we came up with a solution to try to quickly resolve the issue by putting up a sound barrier wall, essentially in front of, between the residents and the actual car wash blower facility. So we did that. Enterprise acted on that fairly quickly. We went back out with the code folks who have noise monitors and tested the noise, and they were now in compliance after we added that wall. The resident was still not satisfied with that, even though Enterprise is meeting code. And so we continue to have further conversations about it. And we continue to have further conversations and dialogue with Enterprise. So we are at a kind of a point now that we're trying to figure out kind of what else can be done. And so the next steps really are there's kind of, if you're not as familiar with it, we added a kind of a wall. We didn't take the wall all the way abutting there's a facility kind of next to it. So there's a little area that we're going to close up with an additional wall that Enterprise was okay doing to hopefully help with a little bit more of the noise. And then we're going to bring the code out again to retest to see if that does anything additional. One of the things that we all have talked about with the resident was to see that if we could turn the blowers on full time instead of them on and off, because the issue is the blowers turning on and there's a noise to the blowers turning on. and that they're constantly kind of turning on off, but there's a time period there where there's no noise coming out of it, right? So the suggestion was made to see if we could turn the blowers on consistently during the day from 8 to 6 and see if that helps with that noise, that kind of white noise blending in with the rest of the kind of the traffic. And so right now we're waiting on code compliance, the additional panel installation, and then we'll kind of have further discussions after we know whether they continue to be in compliance with the code. Enterprise right now is worried that, you know, they don't want to make any additional changes that will obviously kick them out of being in code compliance. So that's kind of where we stand. We've put a significant amount of time, Nikki and I, into this, and meeting with the resident multiple times and interacting with the resident, interacting in meetings with Enterprise. Enterprise has been really fantastic and really supportive and willing to do what they can do to a certain line. They spent thousands of dollars putting in these blowers to be able to have a more efficient operation. So that's kind of where we stand.
So we did a site visit today, and we went over and listened to the blowers. And when you sit in your car, and you can all do this if you want to, and I know the residents have suggested we do this from their home as well. It is this high pitch thing that kicks in when the motor starts. And so now we put it there, we put it in the wall, and we put the second wall in. If you're listening to this 100 times a day, this can be bothersome. And so this idea that Jeremy's proposing, maybe we just start the thing and have it run all day. Because when the actual operation is running, it sounds like white noise. It doesn't have that high pitch. Vis-a-vis 100 cars going through, that thing starts up every single time. So I think there's additional solutions we're gonna bring to the table and see how that works. And but stay on this on behalf of the residents, because if you heard this and then it became part of your backyard experience, I mean, you would hear it all the time. It's one of those things that would just drive you crazy. Now everything depends on people's ears and whatever, but this pitch thing, if you listen to 100 times a day, would probably. So the question is there additional stuff we can do to try to build this? And that's what you're trying to do.
Based on the barriers, airport or Enterprise.
Enterprise has been paying for the barriers, right?
Commissioner Burke?
Jeremy, do we know if Enterprise has reached out to the manufacturer of the device? Sounds like it's relatively new to them. Is there anything that can be done to mitigate the noise from the manufacturer?
I do not know if they've reached out to the manufacturer. However, we have talked about adding dampeners. Yeah, dampeners to try to help with that. So that has been an additional thing we've talked about, but we were really trying kind of first things first, and you know, we'll continue to try things if, you know, we have some more kind of tools in the tool bag to continue to try to help. So.
How many residents do you mean, and how many homes are impacted by that noise?
So we've met the most with, well, originally I think I met with 3 homeowners, but since then I've met really just with the one homeowner that has been kind of the speaker of the rest.
To the trucks across the street.
Now, so the other 3, have we spoken to them afterwards? Has the additional barrier, the wall, helped with lowering the sound for them? Is it for just that one resident? And what about the others? How do they do after that wall went up?
Yeah, I don't have the contact information for the other residents. However, did lower it because they were out of compliance with city code before, and now they're within code compliance.
Commissioner Vance?
Do we feel like this is isolated just in this scenario, or is there concern that other operators may implement some kind of this technology that helps meet the issue?
So the other 2 car rental companies that do this, they already have blowers in place. The difference here was the Enterprise, their blowers had apparently broken pre-COVID. And not knowing where we, at the time, if you were here 3 years ago, we were moving fully forward with a consolidated rental car facility. So they were like, we're not going to invest in blowers. We'll just wait for the CONRAD. Well, here we are 3 years later, there's no CONRAD. So to make their operation efficient, they invested in new blowers. which are very similar to the ones that Hertz and the other companies are using, but yeah.
Any other comments from any of the commissioners? Any comments from public?
We have Stuart Gannell scheduled to speak this evening in this item, and then we have a Brett Connor that I will call on next. One moment. Mr. Gandalf, you may now unmute your mic. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Stuart Gandalf. I own the property 2 houses down on 2980 East Playmore. So I've heard this noise as well. I'm actually going to the property tomorrow. So I don't live there full time, but I'll be there tomorrow to hear if the remediation is helpful. I do appreciate that, you guys have tried to do the first steps on that. So I don't know who I would contact to give input on that, but I'm glad to do that if you follow up with me. The interesting, I think the comment about talking to the manufacturer is a great one. And I would also say, just my point on top of all this, which hasn't come up, these, and it's hard, the noise back there's often music in the day, there's machines running at night, it's very loud oftentimes. So this first things first, this is the main issue, but it depends. It's sporadic. I've tried to complain to the airport on a previous occasion and just sort of left a message, but there definitely is noise there in addition to this. So I would say that this is your high risk priority, because I can see why my neighbor is going out of his mind with it, that constantness, but there definitely is, and I've tracked it at 75, 80 decibels on my side of the line before from just music and just noise. So that's pretty substantial. So that's all I have to say about this. I will, if anybody cares, I'm happy to provide input tomorrow or in the subsequent meeting about, the specific issue for Enterprise and the barriers you guys have put. I don't know yet, but I will be there tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Gandalf. Anyone else? Christina?
Brett Connor, you may now unmute your mic. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brett Connor. I also live on Playmore Avenue in the Sunmore neighborhood. I was one of the residents that Mr. Jeremy met with way back in September. The noise absolutely has continued. The wall, yes, it has definitely helped a little bit, but it definitely has not solved the issue. It has come to a point that we are not able to entertain in our own backyard. So I do want to just echo Mr. Wilhelmi's wonderful statement that he made earlier this evening. I just do want to comment on Jeremy seemed to make the statement about resident singular in his comments earlier, and that is definitely not the case. That there are absolutely many of us impacted in this issue. They probably can't all sit in an hour-and-a-half long meeting like this to wait to speak for comments, but just want to make clear that this is definitely more than one resident is impacted in this situation, and it is definitely a situation that we are very worried about that is going to be reducing our home value. Thank you.
Thank you for concern. Any other comments?
Do we have anyone else on Zoom that wishes to raise their virtual Zoom hand at this time to speak in public comments? Anyone here in the meeting?
So the process continue. We're going to continue to work on this and see if we can resolve this issue for all the residents, not just the people across the street, and see if we can come up with more solutions. So we'll stay on it as a commission and follow up. You'll get us updates along the way.
All right, we move on to Victoria and long-term parking.
Thank you. So at the last commission meeting, Commissioner Corcoran had asked the question about the duration of vehicles that are staying within like a 5-day period. So we reached out to ABM Parking, because they're our parking management group for our lots A through D, as well as our overflow lot. And we asked them to provide us with some data. So they did a comparison, which you're going to see in your packet there as labeled PSP parking facility year-over-year summary, item 8K. It shows that a comparison from calendar year 2022 through calendar year 2023. You will see that 52% of the parking sales is in the 1 hour or less. Not noted on there, but for the record, 20% of parking is 1 hour and 20 minutes to a day. And then 2 to 5 days is 21%. Anything over 5 days is kind of smaller percentages, like for instance, 6 to 7 days is 3%, 8 days is 1%, and then 9+ days is 2%.
So what do we conclude?
So people are not camping out in the parking lot. And a majority of our sales appear to come from our hourly to the daily. But we do still have 20% of our parking that do the 2 to 5 days.
Do we think that's an issue? Or do we think there's enough space for people to get it out? Because the complaint came from one of our residents who basically said that it's hard to find, and maybe this was certainly Holiday Plus, hard to find a space because all these folks on holidays were leaving their cars for daytime. And so if 20%, do we conclude that that's really not a problem?
It's not a problem. And for instance, like over this weekend when we had excess, or we had a higher demand over the weekend, we opened up the overflow lot. So our parking management group is there to help to do the shuttle and operate that shuttle if we need to have that year round. But it seems that it's when we are having a holiday that we most likely are seeing the need to open up the economy lot and operate that shuttle bus.
I think the important thing.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chairman. I was going to say, I think the important thing there is we do have the ability to flex up our parking at any time, and we haven't run out of parking capacity the entire year. So I think that's the important thing to know.
So it's that, and also our ability to communicate with people, give them a heads up.
Yeah.
Come here extra time, you're gonna have to park on precise things. Thank you for doing that research, and hopefully this feedback gets back to that.
Any other comments from any of the other commissioners?
Question, have you considered raising the rates again?
We have not done our rates and fees analysis for this year. Actually, Praska's going to help us with that. I'm a little hesitant to raise the daily rate because that is a competitive advantage for us. But if the math takes us there, then we'll go there.
Just 2 to 5 day rate? No.
So I think going the opposite, have an economy lot, 20% of these people would park, if it was half price, they'd move out of these spots and move over there, even if that the shuttle to the airport. No, you're gonna be gone in 5 days, but you spend $100 and you spend $50 or whatever.
We don't disagree with you. That is a part of the long-term plan, but it's going to take a couple of iterations of planning to get there.
That's a good point.
Any other comments? Comments from public?
Anyone on Zoom that wishes to make a comment at this time? Anyone in the meeting? We have no public comments for this item.
I would like to think somehow we can come up with the 5 million additional, right? All right. Thank you all. We move on to 25.
Yeah, I think we pretty much heard the update from Commissioner Feltman earlier on the Wi-Fi update. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but it's imminent. Within the next 2 to 3 weeks. We should have a cabling provider on board, and they should start to be installing the new controllers and wireless access points. So
You said the buildings first, and then big one in the buildings.
Yeah, so the plan is to get to the Bono first and the Agua Caliente, get those up and in business to get better, access, and then start moving to the rest of the facility.
Thank you. Any comment from public comment?
Anyone on Zoom that wishes to make a public comment at this time? Anyone in the meeting?
Really quick, what's the timeline on getting the entire facility complete with?
I wouldn't be able to tell you. Probably, I'm guessing over the next three to 4 months, probably, that it may take them.
It's pretty good, though. I was thinking a lot of longer.
All right, we move on to our executive director.
All right, most of my CIP report and my executive director's report that captured in writing. A couple of things just for the group. So myself, as well as the city engineer and city manager, assistant city manager, met with Congressman Calvert's office yesterday in part to discuss the loss of the funds for baggage claims and also to discuss any potential avenues for additional funding for various projects around the airport. The Congressman's office was very receptive to our plight. They're looking at opportunities to help us and to figure out where they can be of assistance. So it was a very productive meeting, spent about an hour talking to them about those things. More to come if I have more information from their office. In terms of our strategic business plan, I did indicate in our strategic planning session in December that I will be coming back to the commission for hopefully quarterly to provide updates on where we are with that. I guess the first update is we met with InterVistas, who's leading that planning effort as our on-call planner. They did provide us with a scope of work. We did approve that scope of work 2 days ago or yesterday. The days are kind of blurring together now. And we're going to get started on that planning effort. So hopefully over the coming 2 months, we'll have something for the commission, a first draft. Part of that is going to be some stakeholder engagement. So they'll be reaching out to individual commissioners as well as to the group to talk about ideas and strategies from your perspective. So you'll be hearing from InterVistas at some point in the near future. And then the third thing that's not listed on my report involves future noise meetings. Given that we're going through so much development, I did want to start engaging the community on noise issues and making sure that they understand what we can and can't do, what are within the bounds of the airport, how noise works, how airspace works, all of those things. We're probably going to target some meetings in late April for that. I'm going to do some coordination with Commissioner Weissman, who's not here. But we'll try for late April, if not April, very soon thereafter, just so that we're making sure the community is on board with what we're doing and they're understanding what we can do. Other than that, that concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Question, any of the baggage claim money come out of the infrastructure bill, or is it elsewhere?
It all came out of the infrastructure bill. Yeah.
Okay. Any other comment from any of the commissioners? Seeing none, Christina, do we have anyone from the public?
Anyone on Zoom that wishes to give public comment on item 8M at this time? Anyone in the meeting? We have no public comment for item 8M.
Thank you. Move on to the issue of questions, number 10.
Any requests, comments? So I guess I spoke earlier this morning, or during this meeting, but I thought, Victoria, that we were going to give an update on your mid-year forecast. Is that not something that you want to share with the commission at this point, or?
We can't put it on, we can't discuss it now, it's not an agenda item.
Okay.
Should put it on our next one.
Yeah, we can. We put on it.
I just have one request. We've never got an update on the legal status of going after the manufacturer and the outbound baggage thing. We were told that we're going to go after those people for that money, but we never heard what happened. And if we can't talk about it, I'd just like to add it on next month and get an update on what that is.
Yeah, that's fine. The city council being reviewed. I'll say.
Okay, good.
Say that. Yeah.
Good. So it's not lost.
It's
There's been progress. Thank you. That's it. Anybody else?
Oh, I did have one thing to add, circling back to my report that I forgot, and I'm sorry. For a couple of meetings now, we've been asked to look and revisit the Uber and Lyft signage curbside. Jeremy's been working on that. He provided me with a draft the other day that I just need to review. So that's moving forward just for the group.
Real quick, Chairman keeps talking about this $5 million. Measure of J, would there be potential for that?
Well, we where's our Measure J projects?
It's going to council on the 29th.
That's right, it's this month. We had, what was it, 1.6 million?
1.5.
We had $1.5 million been accumulating since that 2018. And so we made a decision earlier to put that towards the water fountains, the seats, the, all that. Those projects are going to city council for approval. Right?
On February 29th, correct.
So we'll do that. But we've not talked about new Measure J money. And I think we should probably be tracking that in to see once we spend this $1.6 million, what do we do with the rest of the money? I'm not sure those funds would work for these projects. I don't know. It sounds like it has to be, I mean, the 3 tons of things that we're talking about, the baggage, the contract and the first phase 1 of Terminal 1A, those are different funds and different funding mechanisms than Measure J. Would you agree?
They are different funds. Could they potentially apply to these projects? It depends on the project. We'd have to do some further analysis, both of the language in Measure J as well as how it would apply on the project side. So that's something we can explore.
Well, when you think about it, it's $1.6 million over 5 years. So I'm not sure it's going to be material enough to address a $46 million baggage thing, but we should keep track of that money because we made a commitment when we found out we could spend it to focus on things that would impact customer experience.
All right, we move on to council action.
Those were provided in the agenda packet.
Any comments on the airline activity report? Comments on the airline fiscal year numbers.
Those items are receive and file.
Future committee meetings.
The next meeting is on the 20th of March, 5:30 here.
That is correct. For the commission.
And I will entertain a motion to adjourn this.
We do not need a motion. Thank you. We'll adjourn the meeting at this time. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you everyone for joining us.